Okay, hello. Hi, Yaz. How's it going?
It's good. It's really busy. It's a good time to be an SEO person.
Yeah, up there. So in today's Scale Up Live, next in the series, last week we were talking about PR. This week we're talking about SEO with wonderful Yaz, who's one of our experts that features on the Scale Up Accelerator program. There's a couple of brilliant sessions on there, and I thought today we'd just have a bit of a discussion around when and how to start thinking about SEO, because I know it's something we get asked a lot with our clients, and I know from my own experience of being head of marketing in a startup business, it's one of those kind of really tricky questions to answer, which is it the right thing to focus on, and when? And so,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
I don't know. I think I might be a little bit biased, right? But I think SEO should always be at the heart of somebody's kind of strategy, especially if they want to generate brand awareness, if they want to generate leads. If you're like typical example in my own website, when I was starting up on my own, I wanted people just to know who I am.
mm,
I didn't have a huge budget, didn't have a lot of money, and obviously it's a great way of driving the right type of business.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the most yeah. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Um, from experience as well, is it depends what stage you are at the business as well. If you're a startup,
yeah,
if you're a business that's spending lots of money on paid ads, trying to get more efficient as well, I think it's really important. But
yeah. And how would you say? Because that's a really good point, I think, because this is often the challenge, right? Which is like short term versus longer term um,
yeah,
growth, and kind of thinking more sustainably about it versus kind of quick wins, which you tend to get from paid. But how do you go about even assessing the opportunity for SEO? How can you, what kind of tools or process do you need to go through to go, actually, this is worth our investment because it's a good opportunity here?
um, it really depends on the type of business. Like a lot of the businesses that I meet or speak to in a number of different industries, whether they're e-commerce, fintech, healthcare, um, lots of different types of companies. Kind of really, everybody wants to generate leads. Everybody wants to
Mm,
generate new business. It's very rare that I get somebody that says, "Oh, we just want brand awareness."
yeah.
And so, in terms of assessing the appetite, there's a lot of free online tools like Google Keyword Explorer. There's Ahrefs. There's a lot of free tools where you can go in and just look at how many people are searching for puppy yoga, for example. It's a huge thing right now, right? You wouldn't
Yeah.
believe it, about 11,000 people searching it a month. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, so we're actually going to be building our own website on it, just as a bit of a case study.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
it's like, yeah, so a lot of these tools are really good for spotting an opportunity as well, and how competitive a certain industry may be. So you may be running a yoga class, for example. I've got a client at the moment, a yoga studio in London, that's spending about £20,000 on paid ads, and not doing any SEO whatsoever.
Mm,
Obviously, the ROI is good for him because he's doing that, but he wants to become more efficient and he wants to spend less than that. So we're going to be working with him on trying to reduce that kind of marketing spend by trying to drive what he's doing, the type of leads he's generating organically.
yeah. And I suppose they work so well together in a sense that your kind of paid social does kind of brand awareness and also direct response to a degree. But once you've paid for people to see those ads, SEO then helps you kind of sweep up afterwards, right? Because they might come back looking and making
Yeah,
sure that you're there. Is that kind of how it works?
yeah, or like you can be very targeted. I think where SEO strategies work best is where you can kind of like, so if you've been running AdWords for like about a year or so and you've got tons of data,
Mm,
there's something great in AdWords search queries, search terms report. And if it's been set up properly, you tell you the exact keyword or the phrase that somebody's been typing into Google to drive that conversion. And if you can match that data up with building an SEO strategy, it's awesome. It's the ones that we really love. We
yeah.
recently we had a client in the pension space where we did exactly that. And the most difficult thing about SEO is whether you're a CEO or whether you're in-house is really kind of trying to justify the ROI. That's really difficult. So that's really, really difficult. And I think it's always going to be a bit of a challenge. With SEO as well, I think you guys probably know, right? There's no real guarantee that what you're going to do is actually going to drive business. So we try, and I think the more supportive tools you can use, like AdWords, for example, and build that data or do that knowledge graph or that database, the more you can, the more you can make kind of rational decisions. Like some of the biggest issues we have is that somebody comes to us is like, how do I justify spending X amount a month on SEO? I know I need to do it, but and it's a hard conversation, but based on our experience, it really drives like the best kind of origination across the board.
Yeah, I think as well, and I suppose it kind of leads into my next question, which is like, what's actually involved in SEO in terms of like the kind of work involved? Because there's kind of obvious one of creating content that kind of speaks to keywords and drives traffic to your website. But from an ROI point of view, creating that content has multiple benefits as well, right? Because you can repurpose it in other areas, use it for existing customers for engagement and retention. So you can also look at that sort of stuff to kind of help improve some of the, or make a case for ROI. But what are some of the other sort of activities that are kind of common of SEO best practice?
Yeah, so the most important thing is, sorry, this is interesting. It's funny, isn't it? It's really, I hate to say it, but SEO is really simple if you do it right. There's like a number of different intricacies that if you hit on the head, like you do really, really well. The most important thing is content and really thinking about the user and why are you building this content? Are you fulfilling a need? And I know it sounds very, very simple, but there are number of different elements. Like if you go to any traditional SEO, they're going to tell you like content, technical, making sure your website's quick, renders really quick on mobile, making sure it's usable, and making sure that you've got the right keyword strategy. Are you going after the right commercial intent keywords versus like are you picking keywords? Are you trying to rank for keywords where you know that the intent is commercial? That's really important. You know what the difference is. Interlinking, like can you send as many internal signals into your website to tell Google where your most important pages are? That's something that's often neglected. External links, building links externally. Like I always look at that right at the end. And it's different on different industries. Some industries are competitive. Some industries are not so competitive. Like a lot of my experiences within financial services and fintech. So it's like the most competitive industries, which is why SEO has worked really, really well. I also think within B2B as well, it's really good. But we've also done it on B2C as well, where we've also found quite a lot of pretty good traction. But I think the key is all those things like website speed, content, interlinking, external link building. It's all about trying to fulfill the need of the user. Like, do you know what I mean? Why do you want to have a quick website? So the user can get to it and get to where they want to get. Why do you want to have a right keyword strategy, a content strategy, so that the user can get the content that they're looking for? And are they finding something useful? This week there's been this big kind of announcement that Google's launching a new update about content helpfulness. I noticed it.
I saw that this morning actually.
Yeah, so that's all based around all these kind of core kind of principles as well. So SEOs tend to panic when it comes to content helpfulness and are you doing the right things? But I think as an SEO, if you're doing the right things, thinking about the user, you should be fine. And it's always been like that. So yeah, hopefully that's
yeah, definitely. And are there specific industries that SEO is kind of most relevant for or best for, or can it can really play a role in any type of
play a role in any industry? B2B, I found that it really drives, like B2B for me, based on experience, tends to be like the CPAs tend to be a lot more expensive. The life or the cycle of a customer is a lot longer than say B2C. I've seen a lot of really good traction in terms of ROI and approval rates, etc. From SEO across the board. Because PPC tends to be really expensive. Social as well, I think it all has its place. It's just finding the right type of mix.
Yeah.
But one thing would be not just to, if you're a business wanting to generate leads, like it really depends on where you are as a business. Like, so if you're a startup and a business and you want to drive, if you want to build awareness and you want to let people know who you are, but you also want to drive traction, you should always invest in SEO from the beginning. But if you're maybe an established business and you've kind of neglected SEO and you're spending tons of money on PPC or Facebook or social advertising and you know it's working, like why are you not doing SEO? So usually I get the second tier of that, where I get somebody comes to me, they've been spending lots of money on PPC, and I was like, didn't even think about doing SEO. This is costing me way too much. I want to try and bring the cost down. So, but it's quite nice for it to be quite organic. Like if you really love your business and believe in your business, like you're going to be wanting to produce some content. And one thing that I found as well is the more the owners can write the content, the better, because they really love their business.
Yeah. And they can talk about it in the most sort of unique way, I suppose, rather than sounding sort of generic, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, I think, about thinking about it from the beginning. And I've definitely made this mistake before and have seen it made by so many businesses, where it doesn't come until much later. And actually, even when it comes to things like the technical side of stuff, if you thought about that and your kind of keyword strategy when you were building your website from the beginning, you'd be in a much better position. Often you're kind of having to go back a few steps to kind of unpick some of the problems you've created through the structure of your website or the platform you've chosen to use and whatnot, and then start again. Whereas if you think about that from the very beginning of, right, from a keyword point of view, what are we thinking about doing? Use that to structure your website, I guess, in terms of what pages you need, URL structure, help choose the right platform.
Sound like me, yes.
Yeah. Well, I've learned from the best.
Yeah, it's really, that's great. Like if you're building a website from the beginning, like think about it now. Think about the keyword strategy. Think about building a quick website. Think about something that's not going to take up too much of your time as well, and that you can manage and that fulfills your needs as well.
Yeah.
And we experience in making sure we do that. We have a few favorites.
What are your, because that's one we talk about a lot actually, and I've seen discussions a lot in kind of marketing communities and startup communities as well, over like what are the good platforms to use that are the kind of some of these kind of no code solutions or low code solutions that are easier for kind of founders and marketers to take ownership of.
Yeah,
but you still want good infrastructure, right, for SEO?
Yeah, it really depends on how comfortable, how tech savvy like the end user, like whoever's doing it. You know that I love Webflow. I think it's an absolute great tool. I used to be a web developer a long time ago, and I used to develop in WordPress. But Webflow is really great. You know, it does automated backups. It's got its CDN. You know, it's relatively cheap. Huge fan of it, and as you know, Ness, but it does have its limitations. You know, like it's got 100 pages, for example, and that's difficult for some like a big e-commerce business. So they may want to use something different, something maybe in their own stack or something a little bit. So it really depends on the type of business, but and how, like, WordPress has still got its place. It's still great. Squarespace, you know, all these different tools, they all fulfill a need. It really depends about what Webflow is great, but it's a little bit more tech savvy. And then maybe some of the other tools. Because I've had clients that I've tried to move to Webflow and they're like, it's just like WordPress. It's just like going in and uploading an image. It's really easy to use. But then I've had other clients that are totally happy, you know, working with Webflow, etc.
Yeah, makes sense. And I suppose final sort of question just to cover off is how do you measure success of SEO? Like, what are the key metrics that you want to be tracking over time?
Yeah, so you know, for us, it all really comes down to new business, like how many leads it's generating for a business. And obviously, we look at metrics like clicks, impressions, click-through rates, really important as well. Like, you know, what is if your click-through rate is less than 2%, you're probably like probably not very good. All those different type of metrics are really impressions as well. At the moment, actually, I'm doing this exercise where I'm actually going through websites, looking at pages that are generating 0 clicks over the last 12 months and just deleting the content because it's not adding any value.
Yeah.
Any value. So it's all if no one's clicking it, no one's going to it. It's actually adding. It's something called content bloat, which is maybe a little bit more technical, but holding up the rankings of websites. If you've got a big e-commerce website and 60% of your index is generating no clicks, that's something that needs to be looked at. But yeah, sorry, trying to be too technical, but content bloat.
No, it's a good point though, because I think there's often a misconception that it's just about pure volume of content and just having loads of it there. But you're right in that you've got to look at it quite critically as well, and look at like what's actually working, and I suppose also what's there that isn't working, but is there a way that you can improve it? Just because it's not worked once.
And one tip I could give is that if anybody's kind of doing SEO or thinking about doing SEO, use Google Search Console, install it. It's got all the data you need. It's great. It's a great tool. It's free. And all this data that I'm talking about that you need is all in there. If you can master Google Search Console, I think you could be a great SEO or do SEO.
Yeah,
really.
okay. So that will give you an idea of what search terms are currently driving traffic to your site, as well as help you sort of look for opportunity gaps that you might be able to fill.
And all those things like clicks, impressions, pages that are not getting indexed or crawled, all those things, all the things that are really, really important for SEO. I think a lot of people in the industry, not industry, but a lot of people rely on third-party tools, and they all have their to look at, like competitors, etc. But what's really, and this is something that I've learned over the few years as well, right? So I'm constantly developing and evolving. I don't know everything yet, but I'm trying hard to learn, and it's been a real game changer for me as well. Really using Google Search Console, you can even look at position rankings, etc. Have a look at Google Search Console.
Yeah, and what just before we go, one last, there's a tool that you shared with the Scale Up team last time, which is where you put content in and it kind of helps you look at how you can optimize that like blog content better for keywords. What tool was that?
Surfer SEO is a really good tool.
Surfer SEO, okay.
So it's really cool, and sometimes you could run a lot of really cool reports on that. One report is there's a misconception that every you need more content to rank on the first page. Like you could literally see, you could type in a keyword and it'll tell you on the first page that actually, if you want to, the page on the first page are actually 300 words. That's a little bit, not going to be 300, it's probably about 7, but 8. Versus the pages that are ranking from 10 to 20 is going to be over 3,000. So automatically, that actually having less content might be better for you as a business. Also, as well, you can run content briefs where you could type in something like, we're working with a property consultant now. And you can put in a certain keyword and look at what are the top 10 ranking pages, pull all their content, and it will write you briefs to give you some guidance on how you can write content that's going to outcompete it. But don't totally rely on those tools. Really think about the user first. So it's something that I try and teach here as well, or try and teach myself. That is, it's very much about the user and everything that we can do to try and improve that user experience.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's always the way, putting the customer at the heart of everything. Awesome. Well, thank you. That was really useful. There's a bunch more expertise and tips like that on your course on the Scale Up Accelerator program. So if anybody's looking to get more into SEO, I'm sure Yas can answer questions directly as well. And yeah, thank you very much, Yas.
Thanks. Take care. Ciao.
Cheers.
Bye.